And welcome back. We have not quite reached the end of the show yet because we've got to tell you what is keeping us sane or making us feel petty this week. It is Sanity Corner / I Feel Petty, aka Sandy Petty. Amanda, I'd like to hear what is keeping you sane or making you feel petty this week. Which one is it?
It's definitely Sanity, and you're gonna know what it is. It is the Artimus Crew. I'm so excited.
Yes.
At these astronauts. Honestly, I watched the announcement and was so thrilled. So yeah, if you haven't seen the announcement yet, go check them out. It's going to be the first person of color to fly by the moon. And then two other awesome, very cool people.
So when is the Artemis mission scheduled to take off?
It's next year. And I was at the first one. Just had to add that in there. It was so cool. It was like the biggest rocket launch ever. And if you ever go to a rocket launch, the sensation that you feel the most is actually touch because of the vibrations of the rocket.
Whoa. What was it? How close were you?
I was very lucky. So I got to be an administrator's guest. So it's as close as all the guests can get without dying. And because you can die from being too close. And it was super amazing. They tell you not to record it, because everyone wants to, record it for their phones. But, yeah, they're like, watch with your eyeballs. Other people have cameras, so incredible.
Very cool. Are you going to go to this one next year?
I'm sure it's going to be really, really packed. But, I mean, it would be a dream, too, going back to the moon, watching it, and hopefully being on one of these someday. So.
Oh, amazing. Well, I don't doubt that you will. Honestly, Amanda, you are so accomplished and can't imagine anything stopping you from going to the moon. Okay, I'll go next. I have a Sanity Corner too this week. Ooh. Surprisingly. I've been very...
Your first Sanity.
For a long time, I'm usually very petty. So I have been... We've talked about this podcast on like our cross promos, like we'll record promotions. Like if you like Hysteria, you'll like this podcast too. But I wanted to like add a personal recommendation for You Must Remember This with host Karina Longworth. It is a film podcast, and she goes into like the history of film, the like hidden backstory behind different important films. And she's in a series right now called Erotic 90s. I started listening to it and I got all caught up and I was like, I want more. She also does every single year of the 1980s, where she talks about eroticism on film during that year. She has an episode about Kevin Costner and like his type of like particular 80s sexiness, and it's like, it's so good. Like every single episode is so good. She's so smart. She's a brilliant writer. She's really funny, and I'm learning things that I just like had no idea about her, and it's so deeply researched and it's so good. There's an episode also about Jagged Edge, which was this like neo-noir from the early 80s, and it is like legit hilarious, Alyssa. I feel like a lot of these movies are movies that you like watched when you were homesick from school.
The movies that you watched when you went to someone else's house that had Cinemax.
Yeah, exactly. It's so good. You Must Remember This by Karina Longworth. I have like, it has been my entire like week's background noise, and it's just really enjoyable, and she does a great job. So that's my Sanity Corner this week. Alyssa, Sanity Corner or I Feel Petty?
Guys, I'm a little petty this week, and let me tell you why. It's because I spent a fair amount of time in New York City, and I had to go buy wine. You guys, wine people are among the most obnoxious breed I could ever imagine.
Oh, so you picked the week that Caroline was on vacation to unload this one. Because Caroline
what?
Caroline's on vacation. She's a wine person for sure.
No, she can be a wine. You can be, listen, you can love your wine. You can know a lot about wine. What you don't have to do is go into the wine store and be as obnoxious as humanly possible. I went into the wine store to the $30 and under rack, guys, because I'm honest about who I am, okay? I'm just like, I want something red, preferably with a screw top, because why am I messing with a cork? And this guy comes up next to me, clearly casting judgment on my 30 and under vibes, not age, obviously, because we know that's not true. And he's just like, I just need something that's not so oaky, but also not buttery. And I'm like, I could put a fucking Franzia in a wine glass and you probably wouldn't know the difference. But he wanted to be this absolute, just like so much better than everybody else in the wine shop. And let me tell you, I left with 4 screw top bottles of delicious red wine. I couldn't tell you where they were from. I liked the labels. It turned out great for me. It's mostly, I'm like, is this gonna give me heartburn? Do you think it's gonna give me heartburn? Or specifically when I'm buying white wine and I'm like, no Chardonnay for me. After I turned 30, it gave me heartburn. I just prefer people who are a smidge more honest, or do not have to scream about the butteriness of wine at a 10 decibel on the scale. You know what I mean? Keep it to yourself. Stop being such a snob. Guess what? I'll guess that you're rich because you're standing in front of the $100 and over section. All right, yay you.
Oh God. Oh man. See, this is why I'm glad I married a wine person, because then I get to both make fun of wine people and enjoy the expertise of a wine person at the same time.
But somebody who knows what they like is completely wonderful, and someone who has like invested time in knowing like things about wine is great. It is the performative display at the wine store that I'm specifically talking about.
It's the virtue signaling. It's the therapizing of wine that you're
It's the
upset by.
therapizing of wine, okay?
Yeah.
You know what? I had to set a boundary with him, and I was like, stay on the other side of the 50 and over. That will be a good boundary for us.
And you were like, sir, you are girl bossing too close to the sun.
Icarus. Wine Icarus.
Indeed. Kieran,
my favorite was jammy. Somebody was at a thing and he was like, a little jammy, a little less jammy. And I was like, jammy? Gotta tell Alyssa that because that bitch knows jam.
To me, I'm
What the
assuming
fuck does jam have to do with
means
anything?
Because you know what? I think it's a word they use instead of fruity, because fruity's not cool, so they say jammy. Because if it's about the consistency, that's disgusting.
Ew, that reminds me of that like SNL sketch of the cookie dough, like the performance cookie dough or milk. They've done like gross energy drink ads on SNL multiple times. Anyway, Kieran, sanity corner or I feel petty?
I think sanity, because I was shook. I know Alyssa just crushed it. I mean, that's all there is to really say. I was going to just give you a little smattering. 2 things. A buddy of mine released a book, a former MD, Anthony Chinqui, released a book called I Can't Save You. And he was an ENT, a former ENT who works. And it's like a memoir that kind of deals with being like just kind of like an autobiography of like just the, I think, emotional and mental journey of being a doctor for a long time and what that felt like, and being a person of color. He's a black dude and like, you know, in that world and what that felt like. And it's also like funny and touching and great. So it's a great read. And that is my way of bragging that I can read. I do live in Los Angeles, and you know, sometimes I do think it is illegal to read here. Just from looking people in their eyes and seeing what they're like. I listened to that book, and I was like, no, I read it with my face. And the other one is I just wanted to give you a little smattering of smattering.
Yeah. Smatter sounds right.
I wanted to smatter in on that page, Healing from Healing, which is still growing, 25,000 followers, but there is an AI rendition of Donald Trump doing ayahuasca. Because he's healing. You know, there's some there's
I'm gonna follow it right now. Healing from Healing. There's Gwyneth Paltrow. I'm following it right now.
Yeah, there's one of Gwyneth Paltrow, and it says, gastroenterologist here. Not that you would, but please don't get, and in quotes, rectal ozone therapy. And then he's like, also, please don't put coffee in your butts either. And I was like, chic.
Amazing. This is going to be the next 20 minutes after we finish recording. I'm following it too. Well, that's all the time we have. I want to thank Amanda and Kiran for coming by. You two are just the best. Alyssa, thank you for being my ride or die. And listeners, thank you for sticking with us every week. We will be back with more Hysteria next week.